So before we get started, I just want to mention that if Train or Kick, any of the Kick staff, founding members or staff that happen to come across this video, or if you happen to know Train or are a viewer of his, I would really appreciate if you could share this to him, make sure he gets to see this, and maybe even, share his opinion on this whole video. But let's get started. This has been a month's worth of content that I found while browsing and streaming on Kick. So in case you don't know what Kick is, it's been a streaming platform alternative to Twitch. It's been recently started just about 3 months ago. It was kickstarted by TrainwrecksTV. If you don't know him, he's one of the top 10 streamers on Twitch. He's been pretty big for a very long time there. As far as who owns it, I'm pretty sure it's the same people behind stake.com. You may have heard of them from, being recently banned from Twitch after the whole gambling scandal that went down last October/November. And ever since then, Trainwrecks and a couple of other streamers have decided to sort of kickstart this alternative platform project, and so Trainwrecks and the owner behind Stake, Eddie, they decided to just start making their own platform where it could act as a competitor to Twitch. And for the most part, it does allow gambling on there, which is a bit of a hypocrisy on Twitch's end because they still allow gambling there, but just, under the US domain of stake.us, not the official .com version. Besides that, if you've been on Kick before, or you've heard about it through maybe Adin Ross or Train himself, through its recent controversies, you'll understand what this video is about to get into. So me personally, I've started using it since early December, about a month or two into its release. And I was pretty amazed by it so far. It looks very similar to Twitch. I'm sure that's on purpose. It kind of wants to get people comfortable with its similarities, but obviously the UI could improve. But basically, I was just casually browsing, Kick, and seeing what's sort of like popping off right now, what's sort of the most viewed streams going on, and I came across something very, very explicit stream, and for the evil of me, I decided to kind of just click onto what was going on, and I saw that there was this stream of like this OnlyFans group that was multi-streaming to Kick, Twitch, and to their OnlyFans website as well. And for about tuning in after an hour, I thought to myself, this can't really be allowed. This has to be sort of breaking terms of service or some sort of guidelines that Kick has set forth, as well as Twitch, since they had mentioned they were multi-streaming there. And so I just decided to kind of go over what kind of terms of service and guidelines kick.com is running. And so they sort of have these chapters / bullet points where they detail very specific guidelines of whatnot and what you can and cannot cross. And so the stream itself was correctly labeled as 18 plus, and so I decided to go dig further into what sort of 18 plus content is allowed. And as it says right here, that the examples of mature content that they would allow are video games that be rated M for mature, smoking, drinking alcohol, maybe some excessive profanity, casino or gambling, game nudity. I would imagine this falls under M-rated games as well as the graphic depictions of violence or any criticism of political or religious beliefs. Turning back into the stream, I realized that, you know, they're playing a childish game. I think they were playing Super Monkey Ball, which I know is not an M-rated game. They were smoking and they were drinking a lot during the stream, so maybe that covers it. But as far as nudity goes, they were definitely nude themselves and not in the game. And so going back to the guidelines, or the TOS, they have a sexually explicit content section that says, to ensure content is safe for a diverse community, sexually suggestive content is prohibited on Kick. This includes, but is not limited to, erotic or sexually suggestive dancing or gestures, sexually suggestive clothes, sexually suggestive commentary, viewing of sexually explicit content on stream. I would imagine this is, you know, maybe you're streaming or, you know, watching, making a reaction to porn. Sexually suggestive emoticons, avatars, images, or links. After going about an hour into this stream, they have definitely broken a lot of these guidelines. And so I decided to sort of mark every time they broke a guideline or TOS just to see how long it would last before this stream was eventually taken down. You know, and as far as I know, there's no report or flagging yet on Kick. You know, there's no bullet point system or, you know, contacting a moderator on Kick to tell them to take it down. You know, they usually just have to find it themselves, or maybe if you tag them on any social media, they'll maybe take it down then. But the stream itself lasted for a very long time before eventually getting taken down. So let's just kind of go back into the beginning of when I tuned in, you know, and as we go along, I'll probably just have like a counter up here or in the left or right corner just to kind of keep track of how many violations they've done so far. So, you know, after an hour of tuning into the stream, I've noticed that they weren't really doing anything that terrible besides just exposing, you know, their parts of their body that you're not supposed to show. But then after a while, the viewers started stacking up. So keep in mind, I'm just watching this through Kick, but the streamer themselves, you know, they had said themselves that they were multi-streaming to Twitch and Kick, as well as their OF page. So I'm sure they had maybe around 7,000 to 10,000 people watching them collectively. I'll explain here in a minute, because after tuning in, after a while, chat started making jokes to them about, you know, the type of people that would be watching this kind of stuff.
Who's Eric Lamont?
Is he?
I'm looking him up.
I'm just gonna apply for it.
He supports the CLM movement.
And as we all know who Eric Lamont is, if you don't know, it's erob221, you know, Twitch streamer that is very famous for his brother Tyler 1. But specifically how he ties into this is, you know, that one famous emote of his that he has, you know, Lamonting, where you would specifically use it whenever you would see something very sexually explicit or, you know, arousing. Chad just decided to have fun with this and continue to kind of troll them along the way until, you know, the streamers and stuff kind of just gave into the joke and, you know, played along with it.
One's in chat if you're a cuck. One's in chat if you're a cuck.
One's in chat if you're a cuck, because cuck lives matter. Cuck lives matter.
But I think eventually it actually turned out that the host of the whole stream was actually, you know, fans of that OTK group, and they were starting to talk about how Asmongold was actually their inspiration.
Yeah, back when we started streaming, like way back in the day, it was watching Asmongold that changed our whole streaming
100%.
like, kind of philosophy. It was like Asmongold just killed it.
You know, and after a while, I kind of just like doze off and say like, this is a pretty chill stream, you know, besides the obvious, you know, flashing that they're doing. You know, it seems like this was kind of a chill stream, you know, they're just kind of playing, you know, sort of I guess, teasing, you know, walking the very thin line of the TOS. But I kind of just like snapped back into my senses and said like, wait a minute, like this, no matter how innocent they look, they still can't be allowed, right? And so it kind of feels like they knew what they were doing, of walking this very, very thin line of, you know, hey, we're not technically showing it, but, you know, so this could be allowed, right? And you'll kind of see that throughout as this video goes. There's this common trope going on in all these clips that this is allowed, right? Like, this is not breaking TOS. Or maybe they'll say something like, you know, hey, Adin said this is okay, that we could do this, you know, so why not? The point is, the overall message you're going to be see here is that it's not illegal if you don't get caught, if you get what I'm saying. And so it's just this common reckless behavior that is going to be going on throughout these clips of what kind of streams there are on Kick. You know, this like softcore porn that's going on all over the website. The whole topic of the video is just to kind of show that, you know, personally I think Kick can be a serious competitor to Twitch, but it shouldn't have to be this sort of funnel to, you know, porn or OF content, or even gambling for that matter, since that was mainly one of the reasons I think it was created for. And, you know, even Train talks about on Twitter where he really wants to stand up for the small / mid-sized creators, and he wants to allow them this platform where they could actually succeed and grow. And I know some people are probably going to ask, well, hey, like, you know, if this is Kick in its early stages, you know, Twitch was kind of the same as well. You know, they also had some people just like streaming porn content on these random channels. And I think this is the point that I'm trying to get to, is that if Kick wants to be better, it should really have to put a face of strong enforcement, that, you know, they want to really pose themselves as a more free platform, you know, not as strict on streamers as they were, you know, with ads, or, you know, even their very, very strict or soft TOS that, you know, people are just getting banned out of nowhere. You know, you almost have to be sort of self-policing just to make sure you don't let out some bad word or, you know, or phrase that could get you, you know, banned for a whole month or even completely suspended off the platform. You know, so as far as porn goes, you know, over on Twitch, they kind of just solved it already. I'm pretty sure, you know, within seconds of streaming any kind of adult content, it will be taken out immediately. But there's still just this very, very thin line as well over there on Twitch that, you know, ever since there was the whole debacle of the hot tub meta where, you know, female streamers would occasionally just, you know, be in some kind of underwear and a bra on, some sort of swimsuit, you know, as long as they put it under the guise of, you know, they're in a hot tub, you know, they physically have a hot tub in their room or some sort of like kiddie pool in the background, and they're in it while playing a game or maybe just chatting to their to the stream, you know, that would be allowed. Like, that's the fine line. But there's still some streams and creators out there that, you know, keep on tugging on this very thin line. And I think the biggest one that comes to mind is Amaranth. And she's even said it herself that, you know, the amount of money she makes off of that kind of content is about 1.7 million a month. And she basically funnels that kind of thing that, you know, over here on Twitch, you're just gonna get 10% of what I can offer on OnlyFans, where she makes about 3 million a month. How this compares to Kick is that there's also this very, very slippery slope of sexual content going on, of like, if Twitch over here has this thin line of, if you want to be sort of semi-naked, you know, you better just pose as a hot tub streamer. You know, you could still do some sort of sexual ASMR where you're licking the microphone or maybe talking sort of very sensual. And so with a platform like Kick posing itself as a more freer option, it kind of feels like this slippery slope can be very dried up quicker, and content like this will be very easily accessible or even available to stream that will get, you know, more viewers and, you know, just get pushed by the algorithm to be on the front page. And so, you know, as this first example that we're encountering here, you know, it was #1 in the just chatting category, you know, despite being tagged as adult content. You know, normally on Twitch they tend to sort of shadow ban, I guess, or hide any adult content unless you have an account made. And so it won't really push that kind of content first if you were to sort it by viewers from high to low. And so going back to the first example, you know, obviously it was the #1 most watched stream. And so eventually down the line, you know, viewers started asking the streamers to sort of do certain things that, you know, you're not supposed to do. And they sort of just went along with it. And I think even the hosts knew, like obviously this shouldn't be allowed, right? There's sort of like these inner thoughts going inside the host's mind. And again, we kind of go back to the whole guise of like, if they're cool with this, they wouldn't mind, right?
If they're okay with this, they're okay.
So again, as the stream goes on, you know, the people in the stream, like, they're not exactly doing anything that's just like, all right, that's enough, you know, too many violations, like, you're out of here. But they're sort of just having fun with it. Again, they're just like sort of pulling the thin line of that slippery slope, until eventually, you know, they start getting reckless, and this friend of theirs joins in and starts talking very sexually.
I did a boric acid and I have it leaking out of my pussy right now.
Wait, can I smell?
Yeah, smell my puss? Yeah.
And so after a while, I kind of just wanted to do a little test of, like, you know, of the theory I was talking about earlier, where, you know, if Twitch hides, you know, adult content, then so should Kick, right? And so I would just went onto this incognito page, and I went onto Kick, and I went to just chatting, and I saw that, you know, regardless of the tags that they have on, that this was still very accessible, regardless of if you have an account or not with Kick. And so eventually, like, so for the first two, you know, sexual acts that they've done, you know, they're kind of like, all right, this has got to be pushing it. And so till eventually, you know, they start talking entirely dirty, where, you know, here's me just having a live reaction to me watching this, and where the girl talks about snorting, yeah.
Things on my Twitter, it's Lana Smalls XXX. You can find a video of me snorting cum or getting peed in.
I met Lana in a bathroom. I peed between her legs and we became besties.
I queefed in a harmonica one time. Yeah, we did. And I punched you in the stomach.
So as soon as I've heard that, I just thought to myself immediately, like, yeah, this can't be allowed on Kick. Like, they've got to be taken off. And so as you'll see here, here's the amount of violations I found and counted throughout the duration of just 30 minutes.
Suck his dick through his pants?
Oh!
That's how the room smells.
It's good. I smell like
smells good.
Milk. She's mommy milk. Tonight.
Blow harder, blow real hard.
Oh.
Get the full blunt.
Blow, so
Blow, keep blowing. There you go.
Oh.
That's it.
sit on his face. Go for it. There you go.
There you go.
This is so not breaking the terms because we have clothes on.
No.
I'm sure you guys heard that, right? Where the guy is just sort of joking around and saying, you know, this can't be breaking TOS, right? Surely. And so keep in mind, in this next clip, they're still streaming to Twitch. I'm pretty sure at this point they've gotten taken down because, like I said, Twitch is very more strict on this kind of stuff. But somebody had added the comment about how Adin is banned from the platform, but not this.
How did
We are just playing video games, you guys.
And so this kind of led me to believe, like, yeah, they totally know what they're doing. They're just like, you know, putting on the guise of being this gaming, you know, stream, while obviously doing all this sort of sexual, explicit stuff.
It doesn't say you can't do that in the terms of service.
Yeah, because we're both wearing.
And so eventually, after a while, you know, maybe around 2 hours later, the host gets a notification on his phone that his account has gone suspended, and you could see sort of like the reaction that the guy has of getting worried until, you know, me recording it, you'll see that the page just gets totally taken down. You know, I tried refreshing the page a couple of times, but then I eventually realized that no, it's definitely gotten taken down. As you could see my reaction as soon as I see that happening. Until a day later, I figure out that they made a new account and they start discussing about how they had to make a new account because the previous one had gotten banned. And so I decided to just ask them myself about what happened, if they have any idea.
Yeah, like, dude, they unbanned us yesterday and then banned us again permanently. They're like, hey, just follow the rules next time. Then we woke up this morning, the email was like, yo, we watched your VOD, you're never coming back.
Right, and so after that, you know, obviously this time the people in the stream are obviously have clothes on, you know, just like normal swimwear, I guess. You know, it's not necessarily breaking any TOS, but they're still sort of incentivizing, you know, their sort of naughtiness with this dono goal that they have on their stream, where it says, like, you know, if we reach this, we'll just entirely switch back to our OnlyFans content, and you can watch us nude there, I guess. And so just for the heck of it, I just decide to sort of stay on. You know, something told me, like, even though they're clothed, but something still tells me that they're still gonna act reckless until eventually they do exactly what I had guessed, where they start breaking TOS again.
Go play.
I wonder if that'll be it.
You know, as for that one, I know people will just say, like, oh, that's just twerking, like, you know, what could be so bad about that? But, you know, I'm not one to sort of, you know, play the rule book, but, you know, if we look up the definition of twerking, you know, you'll probably understand why. Also, besides the fact that even in the video, you could obviously tell, you know, that thing is, you know, hanging out the side of the shorts they have on. So regardless of what you think about twerking, you know, that thing, it's still hanging out. You know, and as we go along, you'll start to see that that the host just trying to be more careful. You know, he starts to try to warn the girls off, like, you know, hey, don't do this, like, you know, I'll just be careful and stuff like that.
Careful, 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 careful.
And so after a while, it's kind of like, come on, you know what you're doing. Like, you don't try to, like, play it off with these, like, little games and stuff. And so after a while, they sort of calm things down until eventually they get the news that they're back on the top 5 streams of all time on Kick.
Oh, he's
now,
the one.
we're now the second most viewed on Just Chatting.
Yes!
Yeah.
Get some twerky
Can I get to
twerk.
number 1
Yeah,
now?
twerk.
So yeah, they go back to just being reckless, to where they just start doing, you know, very explicit stuff. And, you know, they kind of just stop caring at that point. You know, they just kind of said to themselves, let's just go as long as we can before we eventually get banned again. Or even maybe they just said, how many rules of TOS can we break before we get shut down again? And so they just kept doing this stuff till eventually at one point this girl on stream just straight up started twerking for 15 seconds straight. And I'm not kidding. And they just kept twerking and twerking till eventually, along the lines, one of their mods just straight up made an emote about one of them twerking, and I'm pretty sure that goes against the guidelines as well.
They're so boring. I don't like you guys.
And then by this time, after an hour going into the stream, you know, a lot faster than last time, they get banned again after about an hour and a half into the stream.
Oh, I just had to do that.
And so as soon as they just got banned, you know, I decided to just take a break and come back tomorrow, see if they're back again, which they weren't. But then after going through just chatting again, I noticed, you know, 3 key players in mind that were sort of known for breaking the terms of service. And so the second one that we're going to get into is RebelNala. This was around the time where Adin was live just playing GTA RP, and she was like in top 5th. She was in the top 5 streams of the just chatting section. And so I just decided to tune in to see, you know, let's see what's going to happen, because this was my first time seeing her on Kick. Eventually it turns out that she's an ex-Twitch streamer that also got banned on there for similar reasons as we're going to go over right now.
You guys, I want to change into the bottoms. I'll literally take the thong off, or pull my pants down right here and take it all off in front of you. Mommy.
Now keep in mind, remember that all of this is going under the guise of the slippery slope of like, hey, it's Kick, we can do anything we want on here. There's no TOS, there's no guidelines, as Adin had said previously in that one viral clip of him. You know, and as I'm watching, you know, she keeps talking sort of dirty, and I'm guessing like, should I count this as a, you know, violation or not? And it's just like, you know, and I'm just gonna call it there because it is sort of just like this call to action that she's making, like, you know, sort of incentivizing or encouraging this sort of behavior that, you know, like, hey, cheer me on and I'll do this, or maybe if we hit some sort of goal, I'll do this other thing. And someone in the chat even asked, like, you know, like, this can't be allowed, right? Like, how is this even possible? Until one of her moderators explains that on Kick there's slightly less rules on here.
I don't know. Walden, do you think I could suck a dildo on here?
And so, you know, that's just not the case here. Like, you know, it clearly has similar TOS and guidelines to any other streaming platform, whether it be Twitch or YouTube or even Facebook Gaming for that matter. With her having no idea at all what TOS or what guidelines there are on Kick, she just decides to go the extreme and start doing, you know, very sexual acts and gestures, or even imitating, you know, these very explicit things.
I'm so happy that we're having a really good Monday night together. You guys are already making me hot and bothered.
Till eventually she hits her goal and starts to just strip live on camera.
Oh my god, we're at 1600. I'm so close. You guys, I'm so close to putting on this thong for you.
And she sticks true to her words where she actually does it, as you'll see here.
We hit 2000, all right? I'm about to change into this thong, you guys. I'm gonna be doing the most insane fucking videos and streams on Kick. So it's worth following me. Please give me a follow. I'm just gonna take my pants off right here. Not showing anything. Shorts are off.
So then she changes, and then she eventually just starts dancing very sensually on camera.
Oh my god, I love to ride dick.
And so again, it just comes back to like this careless attitude, like they don't give a crap about the TOS or guidelines, even if it straight up says that, you know, there are some. And so regardless of all that, she just decides to bring in a toy and starts to ask the chat if, like, you know, she could do this. Like, you know, she keeps making sure that, you know, maybe one of her mods or any affiliates or partners that are potentially watching her saying that, you know, hey, go ahead, do your thing.
I'm just showing you. Oh, he said don't show it. I'm sorry. It is a back massager.
And so, you know, these are actual, you know, Kick partners and affiliates that got verified on there, and they're just kind of joining in on the fun, and like, you know, like, hey, let's watch her do it. Like, you know, they're not really warning her of like the potential harm that she's causing to the platform, And so she just decides to go under the guise of like, hey, it's a massager, it's not an actual toy. And so she just like slowly gets into pleasing herself.
It's fucking. Most. I can't think. This is the strongest back massager I've ever bought.
You know, and she doesn't show it on camera entirely, but you know, you could definitely tell like it's happening. You know, and after a while of like doing the naughty, she gets banned live on stream, but it sort of glitches, I guess, because she was still able to just continue doing her stuff and talk to the stream, but nobody was allowed to access the stream from the outside.
No way, I literally just got an email. How am I suspended? I'm suspended for 23 hours. It's really funny. We officially did it. You got me banned. Until next time, my loves.
And so I just decide to like refresh the page and like, you know, yeah, it's confirmed. She's definitely gotten banned. But as she said, it's just a temporary 24-hour ban compared to the previous actors. You know, they got permanently banned. And to this day, you know, she has streamed multiple times after this incident had occurred. You know, you could still go to her page and find her now. Immediately after, I just decided to go on to another stream, you know, the second most before hers. And it turns out that she's actually friends with this other cam girl. And she gets notified by her chat that, you know, she had gotten the 24-hour ban.
On kick, like right now? Oh, I guess she did.
And so we go on to our final example, and this is probably the most famous one of them all. I'm sure you've probably seen it on Twitter of what had happened to this guy, and that is Heelmike. The biggest one you probably know him of is where he got a blowjob on stream, but he didn't officially show his genitalia being sucked on and stuff. And so Heelmike, you know, he's been doing this kind of stuff as well over on Twitch. Nothing as severe as what we saw him get banned for initially, but you know, he's still kind of just towing that thin line of TOS, of the sexually explicit content. And so for that first violation that he did, you know, he does get banned, and rightfully so, for 24 hours, you know, the same time that the second girl got. And, you know, he makes a post on Twitter claiming that, you know, he won't make the same stupid mistakes, but he still kind of is sort of being this troll of towing the line, where I'll show you right now that he's still kind of, you know, very, very blatantly just like poking the bear, the TOS bear, with all these acts that he's doing on stream, where he even just sort of, you know, says that he's gonna do it in a very troll manner, but doesn't actually do it. Where like he does 50% of it, but not the other 50% of what he said he's gonna do. And so tuning into his streams, you know, I noticed that the second girl that we saw, you know, eventually comes on to his stream. And so, and as far as I know, I'm not sure how the rules go of bringing banned users or currently banned users onto another person's stream. You know, on Twitch, if you know, if a user is banned regardless of the duration, like, you know, you can't have that person on because it would count as ban evasion. And I'm not sure if that works the same here. And so Heelmike brings her on, and you know, they still continue to do what could be breaking TOS if a moderator wanted to ban them for it.
Talk to me, boys. Doesn't look like it's lagging.
And so after watching the whole stream, he decides to just sort of end it eventually with like a celebration. You know, the whole stream, it was just like very towing that line. You can almost say that it's like you're just this reckless person where you're climbing on top of a fence you're not supposed to climb, and the security is like telling you to get down from there, but you're not getting down. It's like, that's how I could describe Heelmike here with how he was acting in his streams. And it sort of brings me back to the topic of like, if Kick wants to be taken serious, like, you know, it shouldn't have to be this funnel to OnlyFans content. You know, if it's going to claim to be, you know, just like no porn at all, you know, then it should, you know, give a fair warning to Heelmike about this kind of stuff, because even in the stream they talk about how eventually he'll maybe even be shifting towards that kind of content and even streaming there too.
You, Heelmike is opening up a fucking OnlyFans?
So again, we kind of come back to the attitude of like, you know, this is Kick, you know, they don't care, you know, we can do whatever we want. And so it just comes to the point where it's just a flat out, where he just flat out just breaks TOS on stream. And I'm guessing he was kind of just drunk on stream while he was filming this.
Oh, I'm fucking Kick. We don't give a fuck. Oh my lord.
And you know, from him holding the bottle, I can almost say that he was guaranteed drunk while doing all this. And so after this, you know, he wasn't banned, you know, he still had his account up. There was no warnings issued as far as I know. And so a day later, then he notices that that one girl that we saw from the second girl's stream, that her friend that got notified of the ban, you know, Heelmike notices that she starts her stream and that he's right next to her, or on the most viewed streams on Just Chatting. And so he kind of just comes to his senses and sort of asks himself that, you know, am I part of the problem that's going on here on Kick?
Oh no. Oh no. Am I turning this website into a cam website? I'm the reason she's live on. Oh no.
So again, we're back to the topic of like, you know, just funneling content from Kick over to OnlyFans. And it's like, there has to be some sort of hard line set on making sure that this website doesn't become some sort of a softcore porn version, or you know, that doesn't become extinguishable from a campsite. And you know, even as of editing this video right now, I'll show you how many of these examples there are. You know, here are like 20 more examples that, you know, I just don't even have time to go over to see if they're also, you know, making similar violations of guidelines or, you know, breaking TOS. It's like, at some point you just gotta go back into your senses and say, like, you know, as the owner of Kick, like, are you really okay with this going on your website? And so after a while, I just kind of just take a break for a week. You know, I just say, you know what, I'm done with this. Like, you know, I kind of lose faith in Kick. And I just say to myself, like, you know, I'm just going to let this happen. If this is how they want to go down, then maybe the website will go down this way and it won't really last for as long as they had intended. You know, maybe in a couple months, it's just going to shut down or something, maybe lose fundings. So eventually, you know, Train, who's the face of like Kick, you know, decides to just like step up and say, you know, express the same sort of issues that I have with Kick. And, you know, he gets into a call with Destiny and Heelmike, and, you know, he kind of just issues this warning to Heelmike, like, you know, like, hey, you got to stop doing this. Like, this is not okay. Your behavior is not okay. And so he kind of just clears up the drama surrounding the controversial content we've all seen on Kick.
You know you're the fucking Don, big man. We got your back. You're taking over.
All love. You too, baby. You too. Just, you know, don't cross the lines. Hey, keep doing you. Hey, you're killing it, bro. You're killing it.
On your feet one time, I was too much, but you know I've been respecting the TOS and genuinely.
Damn right, baby. Just keep killing it, bro. Hey, one of these days, you're going to be one of the top dogs.
And so, you know, he kind of just lets him off with like a warning, you know, maybe like you could call it maybe just a slap on the wrist if you wanted to. But, you know, after a while, like, I'm pretty sure, like, in this call, it's Heelmike, Zerka, Destiny, and Trainwrecks. They're all just sort of talking about the current state of Kick, you know, and to Train's credit, he does sort of bring up the fact that, you know, like Kick is in its early stages. Like, Twitch in their early stage, they were suffering from like, similar pornographic problems, and they still do a year later, as we talked about, where, certain streams, like, will get shut down immediately if they notice it. And so where even Trainwrecks even brings up the discussion of that very thin, fine line of what's allowed and what isn't.
I still see that on Twitch when I'm fucking live, right? And it still takes them 5 to 10 minutes to take it down. So these I can't tell these viewers that are doing this, these streamers that are doing this, if they're being disingenuous about it, or they just really weren't around for, our time on Twitch, Destiny or Devin.
And so I understand, like, Train's point about like calling people like me out for making this kind of content. And it's like, but it does sort of come to a point where Kick must establish itself, or, make some sort of statement where it should not have to be some sort of clone of a campsite, or allow certain like rules to be bent. And so eventually, like, even Train himself, brings up the point where he's worried that Kick could eventually become indistinguishable from a porn site.
Dark rabbit hole. And yeah, it's gonna be, indistinguishable from a campsite or from a D-Live or from whatever other sites exist.
And so I technically just agree with all of what Train had said right there. You shouldn't have to be indistinguishable from a campsite. Even after this statement was made by him, I still was able to find, top streams where even affiliates themselves were able to sort of bend these rules around. Where I found this one Portuguese girl that was sponsored by Steak herself. And as we've established that, Steak, owns Kick. They made Kick.
Oi, meus queridos, voltei. Teve forra. Vocês sabem que forra é agachamento.
And so I get it. I know some people are probably going to be upset that, like, and say that, it's just body painting. Like, there's nothing too harmful. But I think if the TOS is very similar to what Twitch has, I think they've established that they said that body painting is just straight up not allowed. Regardless if like the girl is wearing pasties to try to cover up the nipples or any sort of, very explicit parts of her body, that's just straight up not allowed. And so as we saw here, that the woman in question, like, she was, straight up showing everything, but with, body paint on, while having a steak sponsor behind her. And so again, I keep coming back to the whole point of this is that Kick just, has to distance himself from like this no TOS rhetoric, or like go ahead and come on here with careless behavior. And like it should make a statement that you don't have to walk on this thin line of like, go ahead and just do this but not that.
I thought it was something that we all knew. Okay, we can do this, but we're not going to go over this, right? Maybe I can tease this, but I'm not going to actually show the nipple or show the boob. I'm going to tease this, but I'm not going to actually get a blowjob on stream, right? Like, I was thinking everyone kind of understood that line. So I wanted a more free platform, and I thought everyone kind of understood that bare minimum.
The streamers themselves know if they just walk that line, that constant thin line, it's going to eventually break. And there has to be sort of perimeters set, because if streamers keep walking this thin line, then they know that's what's going to drive their viewers and subs up. And so that kind of just makes it unfair for all of the other streamers that are, not walking on this thin line, that they're just playing fair by the rules. But, they're still in the lower range of like 10 to maybe even 5 viewers. And, even Train himself has said that, he made this platform to sort of stand up for the small to mid-range streamers and not be sort of bullied by these corporate rules set forth by Twitch. But then an even bigger issue emerges, and that comes with Viewbotting. It is a new website, so it tends to be more vulnerable to these kinds of exploits or hacks. There has been a common complaint reoccurring within the Kick community of viewbotting, in the gambling category, or even the just chatting category, where you might see a couple of streamers, having anywhere from like 1,000 to 5,000, while their follower accounts are like just barely 200 or less. I think in the same call with Destiny, one of Train's friends, Devin Nash, you know, he brings up the point of like, you know, how much of Kick's viewers are legitimate versus viewbots.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, what I meant by that is Adin cracked 100,000 fucking views, and that's kind of wild, you know? That's why
Adin's... Yeah.
If you believe those viewers are real.
Oh, oh, what?
And so, you know, Devin does bring up a fair question, like, you know, just like Twitch, there was sort of like these viewbotting issues where someone might use like, you know, proxy servers to go onto the domains of these Twitch channels and like, you know, just drive their numbers up, or they might embed their streams onto certain like websites of gaming sites where you know, you could track stacks or something. Like, for example, if you're on like some sort of League of Legends website where you're trying to look up stats or builds, like, you know, you'll oftentimes see like this one little small stream that's like barely visible to like the bottom right corner of the website. And, you know, if you click on there, you'll notice that that stream has like an absurd amount of viewers versus what they genuinely have on Twitch. And so as the call went on, like, you know, Train kept answering like, you know, these sort of questions if like we already kind of know the answer to, of like, you know, obviously there are viewbots, there is like, you know, this pornographic content going on, and he sort of defends himself with that same statement he gave earlier, like, you know, Kick is barely in its beta stage, like, you know, Twitch at this same age, like, you know, was suffering the same problems, like, you know, give it time, it will improve upon those parts that Twitch couldn't. And so with viewbotting, like, you know, there is this like statistical fact that someone brought up in this article where it had mentioned that the top 50 streamers that you may watch or know of, like, you know, they themselves have viewbotted, and, you know, Train themselves knows about this, like certain statistic, as he'll go into detail here.
Beginning to see where the hate's coming from. I'm telling you, I'm beginning to see it. It's all the streamers who viewbot incessantly and extremely so. I always sat there wondering why the 50K streamer pissed off at a 30K viewer streamer for being successful. Then I realized that 50K viewer streamer is more like a 15K viewer streamer, and that's where the jealousy is stemming from. Then I looked a little deeper, and I'm beginning to see a lot of numbers that don't add up. But hey, that is what it is. Rest assured, I'll be collecting a lot of data.
And so to finish this video off, I'm kind of just going to lay out these three main important issues that Kick must address in order, if it wants to win against Twitch or be an actual competitor. And these three things are viewbotting, pornographic content, and TOS/guidelines. And so for the first one with viewbotting, obviously it sort of acts as like an amplifier to these kinds of problems. Like, you know, if you're streaming, you know, sort of like this softcore pornographic content, you know, 50 viewers and stuff, it's like nobody's really going to click on that. Like, you know, you're probably going to have to like scroll down a few pages to actually find that sort of content. But if you're viewbotting, and you'll see that, you know, that person is like on the top of the just chatting, you know, more eyes are going to be on it, more ears and stuff are just going to immediately click to that. And people are going to watch it, and it's going to become bigger and bigger, and it's almost going to seem to have like sort of like this natural rise to fame, where the person might have just viewbotted a couple thousand viewers, and then it goes up to maybe like 5,000, and it becomes hard to tell, well, what is actually being viewbotted versus what isn't.
This dude viewbotted 2 to 3K viewers. I might just say, it, I don't give a fuck. But when you're viewbotting 15 to 20,000 viewers a day to push predatory gambling styles to the top, I don't like that. So I'm going to actively push to find a fix for that as soon as possible, especially since my name is attached to it, and since I'm, you know, pretty much at this moment the face of it.
And the second final point is porn. And so, as you saw, the big message that I was getting across here is that Kick was just being sort of this funnel to everyone's OnlyFans content. It should really, really set its foot down and say that this kind of content is just straight up not allowed. But then it kind of dawned to me, because as of editing this video, this is right after the Stream Awards went on, and surprise, surprise, guess who the big sponsor of the Twitch Awards was?
On top of that, sign in using your Twitch account and see which of your favorite streamers are all.
I want to say a huge thank you to our sponsor, Fansly, for
Yep, your eyes aren't deceiving you. Twitch was literally sponsored by Fansly, which is like this OnlyFans partner, and they were literally just advertising about how, you know, if you're a fan of one of these big creators, one of these big female creators, then, you know, go ahead and just like get some sort of Prime subscription to their OnlyFans by signing in with your Twitch account. And that kind of just gave me this like sort of synopsis of like, you know, here you have Twitch, like, you know, this website, you know them for all these controversial stuffs, and like, you know, the biggest one being, you know, hot tub, you know, sort of softcore pornographic content. And so it kind of dawned to me, like, you know, if Twitch is going to be known for this, then the, you know, Kick is going to be known for all this gambling streams as well, because that was the whole reason it got set up, right? Is for there to be gambling allowed. And as far as I know, and as you could even see this yourselves, if you go on Kick, you know, the top 2 categories that are always on top is slots and just chatting. And so this kind of goes into my final point of talking about the TOS and guidelines. And as we all know, the famous saying goes, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. And so I think Kick needs to set these very, very disciplinary guidelines, and, you know, put the foot down and say, you know, like, hey, we got to really step up our moderation, maybe even update our report system, that, you know, if we see this kind of stuff being thrown around the website, that, you know, we're just going to take it down regardless if the person is a verified partner, affiliate, or no matter if the person has 50 views or 1 viewer or maybe even 5,000 viewers, that kind of content is just straight up not allowed. Or if you're someone like a Heelmike that does sort of like this teasing pornographic content, that you just get up and say like, no, a no is a no. And so for myself, like, you know, I'm a big supporter of Kick. I just want to come back to the whole topic of saying that, you know, Kick needs to be serious and, you know, establish itself as a real competitor instead of just being this mirror of Twitch. You know, you could succeed where Twitch has failed. If Twitch, even to this day, is still suffering with the same kind of softcore porn, then maybe, you know, Kick can step up and say like, you know, hey, over here, we're not going to allow this at all. You know, over there on Twitch, like, you know, they have this adpocalypse going on where, you know, some people are just straight up getting banned for no reason if they become unmonetizable. You know, they're gonna, you know, shadow ban or even straight up suspend your account for small things. And again, this where Kick can come in and say like, you know, hey, just come here, join our Discord community, have a chat with us, and say, and we can have a talk about whether what you did on stream is prohibited or not, or if the ban that you got was, you know, correctly charged or not. And so as of right now, there's no ads running on Kick. You know, they're mainly just going off of their partnered subscription program where they're offering a 95 to 5% split. And like, you know, that's a very, very big incentive to go over there and switch to Kick. And I'm sure a lot of your favorite streamers that you know of are starting to switch over just as like a secondary stream where they might stream on Twitch for a couple of hours, then switch over to Kick and do the more relaxing stuff that they couldn't do before, where it's not necessarily breaking TOS, whereas like, you know, they become unchained and say like, you know, over there on Twitch, I wasn't able to say this, but over here on Kick, you're like, you know, I could freely express myself. And I think that sort of relaxation is what a lot of what Twitch needs, but it doesn't seem to be acting upon it. And that's where Kick again steps in and becomes that relief.
There are certain circumstances, I think, if done responsibly, you know, I think it would be appropriate. But then again, you would have to make things very clear, because I think right now where we are right now with Kick, like it's a perfect example of that, right? People say, oh, well, fuck, Kick is a little freer. Let me go over there and do extreme shit.
And so, you know, I'll just end this off by saying that, like, you know, I hope Kick does succeed. I really hope that within a year or two from now, it becomes what Twitch couldn't. It becomes its successor. It becomes an actual competitor where, you know, you might see sort of sponsored events coming in, where you might see their own sort of streamer awards show coming on, you know, all this kind of stuff. And if you're watching this, like, you know, if you want to go support me on Kick over there, you could go over to my channel. It's under the same name as my YouTube. And so if you want to go help me over there, then you're more than welcome to just join at any time and see this kind of content that I'm working on, similar to this video where I cover, you know, sort of the streams that's going on Kick or Twitch and, you know, expose it. And sometimes you might just see me there casually relaxing, playing a couple of games. So again, if you know Trainwrecks, or if you know someone of the Kick staff members, or you're friends with them, or any streamers or any Kick streamers that might even come across and watch this themselves, like, you know, make sure to share it to them or repost it or anything on Twitter, you know, TikTok, like, you know, make shorts about this, like, you know, expose it and get the word around. And so I would really appreciate if you guys can do that for me to get this message across. And so I love you guys. I love Kick.com. I really hope it succeeds. And that's going to be it for me for now. Goodbye.